Welcome to NFL Daily, where we're reacting to one of the biggest trades in NFL history. Live, thanks for joining us on YouTube. Thanks to everyone checking us out in your ears. I have got the right man with me on this Monday morning on the West Coast to react to Myles Garrett's stunning trade to the Los Angeles Rams. His name is Nick Shook. He's just a kid from Akron that just happens to be the city where the Browns are right now holding a charitable golf event for the Browns Foundation in which Andrew Berry, the GM, is literally answering questions as the report comes out from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, and Tom Pelissero. The deal is Garrett to the Rams for a first-round pick in 2027, and most importantly, Jared Verse, the defensive rookie of the year from just a year ago. There are also draft pick considerations that have yet to be negotiated, so we believe that more picks will be going to the Cleveland Browns. What a stunner. We were in the middle of taping a different podcast, and this one's going to be way better. How does it feel to see your Browns trade away the all-time sack leader in a single season immediately after setting that sack record, Nick?
Well, I mean, I feel better prepared for this, given that we just spent 10 plus minutes talking about the possibilities of this when it happened. Talk about overexposure for Andrew Berry. Terrible timing, but a great deal, I think. What is the initial reaction? It makes sense for the Browns to part with Myles Garrett at this time, given that their title window is nowhere near where, like, now, and the Rams are going for it, and Myles Garrett is not getting any younger. And I think the Browns got a good haul back. Jared Verse is one of my favorite players coming out of that draft class. I loved watching him at Florida State. He's been a monster with the Rams. And if there's any consolation that Browns fans who are absolutely distraught over the loss of Myles Garrett, if they can find any consolation, it's the fact that you have an immediate starting edge rusher who is going, he's not Myles Garrett, but he's a damn good edge rusher.
Yeah, this is one of those big deals. And I'm racking my brain trying to come up with a historical precedent. And I don't think there is one quite like this, but hit us up in the comments if you can think of one. But this is a trade immediately you think, well, who won the trade? Not everyone has to win a trade. Well, we might be talking about an AJ Brown trade that feels very fair later this week. To me, this is a very good haul for Myles Garrett, and yet it totally makes sense for the Los Angeles Rams. Our Jordan Rodriguez, who's going to be writing a piece for The Athletic, little teaser here, is reporting that this was in the works for weeks, ongoing conversations between the two teams. Hope to get more information from Jordan. She's going to be joining the show on Tuesday. Ian Rappaport indicated something similar, which is that initially the Browns were saying Garrett was not available, but the Rams were persistent, and I have to imagine getting one of the best young pass rushers in the entire NFL on a cost-controlled contract has to be a big factor. And the Browns, will be looking to extend Jared Verse when he's eligible. But for now, you got a guy that Ali Connolly and I just ranked in our top 12 edge rushers in the entire NFL. People thought we had him too low. He could go even higher than that, a very particular type of edge rusher. You obviously got him much cheaper. That's from the Brown side. I want to get into compensation. I want to get into the money, all of that. But to me, the biggest story, other than just the stunning nature of a reigning defensive player of the year getting traded, is that the Rams, Nick, let's just talk about them going for it in a way that maybe no team has ever gone for it in our time covering the league before. I mean, they are winning now to the nth degree. Matthew Stafford at the very end of his career, he's talked about it. And now you add Myles Garrett with guaranteed money into next year, joining forces. Just what do you think about the Rams and where this puts them overall in the NFL and especially on defense?
Well, the first thing I think of is how despondent Sean McVay was when they lost the NFC Championship game, and how he truly felt like this was the team to win the Super Bowl, and they didn't get it done. Part of why they didn't get it done is they couldn't get a stop on the road in Seattle in the NFC title game when they needed it most. How do you address that? You go and trade for Trent McDuffie. Then you go and trade future capital and a young edge rusher for an upgrade and a proven elite superstar edge rusher in Myles Garrett. You signal to the rest of the league, we are acting with intent. We believe our window is now, and we are not going to leave any stone unturned in our pursuit of a championship. But Joe, by the way, that Super Bowl played in our home stadium, the same place we won our last Super Bowl. We're going after it right now. We're going after it with all the force possible.
Yeah, it's crazy because look, Garrett is an older player entering his 30s and everything, but he is coming off his best season. And you think about their defense now. I do kind of want to just talk about like the team that they have before getting to all the draft capital and just what it means. And historically, you pair Myles Garrett with Jared Verse's old friend Braden Fisk. Two very different types of players. You have Byron Young there, who also was drafted in our top 25 edge rusher draft just a couple of weeks ago. You have Kobe Turner as one of the best interior pass rushers, full stop, in the entire NFL. And oh, by the way, you have one of the best run stoppers in Poona Ford, who completely transformed their defense for a coordinator in Chris Shula, who I think did a really good job. The big question, last year and going into the offseason was definitely in that secondary, but that's where you add not only Trent McDuffie, as you mentioned, but Jalen Watson. You get Quentin Lake back healthy. It is a crazy loaded defense. It was a crazy loaded defense before you added Myles Garrett. And I don't think you should forget that, look, you're losing Jared Verse. So he is a much more dynamic, bendy pass rusher, whereas Jared Verse is a very specific type of push the pocket. I'm going to run you over. I'm tougher than you. I'm not going to necessarily win one-on-one all the time, but I'm going to be part of a big pass rush plan. The Rams are great at that. But now they have a guy who is going to attract attention. I mean, you've watched the Browns forever. This has to be the best defensive line that Myles Garrett's ever gotten to play with.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I would go back a few years ago when they were, trying to pair him with a number of different edge rushers, usually veterans, one year to the next, who is it going to be to line up opposite him? But this is without a doubt the best situation overall, because you're not just leaning on veterans and guys that are, at or over 30 to get the job done, that are proven. You're leaning on a group that is squarely in their prime and can attack you from a number of different directions. And this is a good front already, like you said, and Jared Verse was a key part of that. But what makes it really enticing from Myles Garrett's perspective is that the way you just described it, it basically illustrates a situation in which offenses can't just dedicate a bunch of attention to Myles Garrett, because not only can they get hit by a Byron Young, not only can Braden Fisk cause problems, they can get hit from any direction. So Myles Garrett is a guy who attracts double teams and chips more than anybody in the NFL. Like, it's just it's a commonality with him. It's happened throughout the course of his career, and especially over the last 3 to 5 years. You can't do that as often as you'd like when you're facing the rest of this defense, which makes them that much better, that much more dangerous, and that much more effective in the biggest moments in the postseason where you expect to be. I'm telling you, man, there's nothing like the bittersweet taste of losing to your division rival with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, to then prompt you to go all in and say, we are not letting that happen again. And that's why I think it's a great trade for both sides, and it makes all the sense in the world for the Rams to go do that right now.
Wow. Yeah, it reminds me so much, of course, of the Jalen Ramsey trade, which helped put them over the top. It reminds me somewhat of them acquiring Odell Beckham, who we'll get to very briefly at the end of this show, who's back in the NFL with the New York Giants. And when you think about it, you just think, if you're a Rams fan, you just love that they go for it. And yeah, multiple things can be true. They also drafted Ty Simpson in the first round. That's, I think, still a confounding pick. This trade doesn't change that to me. I think this offense would look, even better with Omar Cooper Jr. or, insert wide receiver here. I would have liked Casey Concepcion. Like, I think if you're going all in, like, that would have been great too. But you kind of had your cake and you're able to eat it too. And I want to give Snead and McVay credit, because they always tend to do this. And there's this feeling that they're going to win now. And yes, they had that quote unquote sprint rebuild where they did take a step back and it all went sour a little bit after their Super Bowl victory, but they were competitive in that sprint rebuild season. They end up making, having a winning record and everything. And everyone's going to say like this, it's now or never for the Rams, but they actually are set up quite well long-term. They don't have crazy salary cap responsibilities. And if you think about it, in a way, it sort of makes sense, because you're paying Myles Garrett an incredible amount this year and next year. You were going to have to pay Jared Verse starting either next year or the year after that. You were going to have to pay Kobe Turner. I don't know if they would have had to choose between one of those two, but it would have been trickier to sign both of those two. Now it's like, okay, it kind of frees up. Kobe Turner's more of our long-term guy. Myles Garrett's here for the next couple of years, and it reminds me, a little bit of that Von Miller trade as well, which they gave up a lot for what ended up being a half season of Von Miller, essentially, but it did get them over the line. So many of the biggest trades, Shook, in NFL history, when I was looking for comps, I'm going through it, were literally made by Les Snead. It's like Von Miller, Matthew Stafford, like how many, Jalen Ramsey. You can throw Trent McDuffie. Now we're getting much lower on the list, but in terms of guys really at the top of like the league, and they were in on the AJ Brown discussions earlier this offseason, there actually aren't that many great examples of guys who are really at the top of their level and getting traded like this, unless and Sean McVay are just willing to go for it.